ya. Talk about the stories, but you know we different, man. You know we had to add a little twist. Comedy and crime, speaking of man, we different design. You never seen a show like this. Comedy and crime, Rodney Perry live. 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 Comedy and crime, Rodney Perry live.
Okay.
That is our new theme song, Comedy and Crime, right here on Rodney Perry Live. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's going to live many places, though. This podcast is taking off, and you guys are being a part of it. Shouts out to my host, my co-host, the Melanie Mary is in the building. How are you, Miss Melanie?
I'm good, Rodney. How you doing today?
All is well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You're in Chicago, Illinois right now.
Yes, I'm in Chicago. Had to make an overnight trip to come check on my mom who's in the hospital. So literally right after we get off air, I'm headed to Christ Advocate. So yeah, check on my mom.
Good stuff. Prayers up to your mommy, and I hope she's feeling better, feeling well. My man, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Artsy Musa is in the building. What's up, Musa?
What's good? What's good, man? Excited. Another what's this, episode 2 we on? Like,
well, we don't know. We don't know because this could be our first episode. Because what I decided to do with this podcast, because I've done them live in the past, but I decided to record these. And so we can record it, we can edit it, we can make it look fly. And we got a great producer in Madeline Smith and Madeline Negruso, and also with you as well, Artsy Musa, who's really the brainchild of this idea. We were talking on the road, and he was like, "Yo, man, there's very few Black people in the true crime space. Let's get in there." And so here we go. Shouts out to Comedy and Crime. Today we're talking about a number of things. We will be covering Diddy today, and all things Diddy. Melanie is going to be our advocate when it comes to really kind of unpacking this thing. And also, we have a special guest, Mr. Victor Williams, to be on here shortly. But to start the show off, Artsy Musa, have y'all seen that?
In the news, man, we got Joe Malinowski, otherwise known as Lieutenant Dan. Now, everybody know Hurricane Milton was like a Category 5 hurricane, and the whole world was saying this was the worst hurricane we have experienced in over 100 years. Evacuations weren't optional. You had to leave. Well, this man, aka Lieutenant Dan, decided he was not going to go, and he didn't have a bomb shelter. He didn't even have a house. Lieutenant Dan had a Fisher-Price style boat, and he said he was going to ride this boat and throughout this hurricane. Now, they asked him what his plan was. His plan verbatim was, the boat is gonna go up, I'll go up with it, and when the water goes out, I'll come back down. That was his plan. Like that's what.
So why do they call him Lieutenant Dan?
Because he looked like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, and he lost his leg. Do we got a picture of Lieutenant Dan in our archives?
I do got a picture somewhere.
Cause y'all gotta see him, man.
Yeah, I gotta see this guy. So Lieutenant Dan. Let's see, and we got a video of Lieutenant Dan too.
I was terrified of Lieutenant Dan when I heard the stories. I was like, "Yo, they saying the worst hurricane we could ever have in possibly 100 years."
And the whole thing went viral too. Am I right, Musa? Like this is Absolutely. A big deal. This is huge on TikTok, all over the place.
Because he was somebody who decided he was going to stay. First of all, Florida people, hats off to y'all, because y'all are some of the most resilient people on planet Earth.
Hey, my good friend Cole Parker just moved his family to Tampa. I like, dude, you picked the hell of a time to move to Tampa.
Is Cole okay? Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's okay. He's okay. But he had evacuated twice in 2 months. Okay, that was Lieutenant Dan. Yeah, give me that again, man. What the hell was that? Yo, is that him? Does he have legs, Musa? You muted, sir. You're muted.
Oh. He got one leg, man. He got one leg to stand on. But just looking at Lieutenant Dan, like Lieutenant Dan is the poster child for every don't do drug sign you've ever seen. Like just his face alone, he could represent any type of drug. Like that man has been through so much. I didn't think this was going to kill him. Like once I saw what he looked like, huh?
I said Lieutenant Dan ain't had no legs. At least this guy got one leg up on him.
He definitely got one leg up.
He got one. But when I saw him, that's a tough white man. His boat is docked behind the Waffle House, so you know he was like he with the crap, man.
Give me this, Musa. So the guy elects to stay. TikTok falls in love with the guy, and he started making money and everything on TikTok. And then what happened?
He actually put a GoFundMe up to actually try to repair his boat as well as possibly join a gym. That's what he said. The cap for the GoFundMe was $100,000. He's already raised $30,000, so he's halfway there. And then to come to find out in October, he actually got to go to court to prove that the boat is his. So the boat might not even be his. He just got his man is in somebody else's boat. But shout out Lieutenant Dan, bro.
So first of all, we got to get this man real name. Why do he still got a knee though?
Like, cause he just lost. I don't know how he lost his leg. I'm not even gonna lie. And the internet said it was a dice game, but I don't know how true that is.
A dice game.
They said it was a spicy, wild dice game. He lost his leg in, but yeah, Lieutenant Dan, he got a few. You know they love to bring up your convictions and stuff. He got one conviction for punching a police officer, and then he got another conviction for setting a woman on fire with gasoline. So he's not to be played with. But
the dude is not a game, and he stood and faced the storm. Well done, my brother, Lieutenant Dan. Hey, what else you got, Musa?
Well, that's all for the news right now.
Hold up, only a white man can punch a cop in the face and live to survive to tell the story.
How about that? Hey, y'all, my name is Rodney Perry. That is Artsy Musa. That young lady is Melanie Mary, and this is Comedy and Crime. Join us today, man. I can't wait to bring this guy in. First of all, Melanie, please do our intros, man. Give all his accolades, all his credit. He is an awesome human being, and he's joining us today. Shout out to Mr. Victor Williams.
Victor Williams is a retired federal agent for the Department of Health. Department of Human Services, and then also as a Navy veteran. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'll let Victor do it.
What's up, she mate?
We're friends. Don't you know what I did for a living?
I used to. Okay, I'll let Victor do his own intro.
Wow. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Vic Williams. I'm a retired special agent, Homeland Security. I did do 8.5 years with the United States Coast Guard.
Department of Transportation.
I did a couple years team security for the Atlanta Hawks when I retired. Oh, there you go. Right. Okay. No, it was Homeland Security, but I did do a couple years as team security for the Atlanta Hawks when I retired from Homeland in 2018. And I also did a year as a human trafficking coordinator for the state of Georgia. Now I run my own anti-human trafficking organization called Quest to Freedom. And that's Quest, 2 Freedom, all one word.
Wow, Quest to Freedom. That's very noble, Mr. Victor. Talk to me about human trafficking, because I there's some nuance to this that I just didn't understand. And Melanie has been kind of explaining it to us, but give it to me. What is human trafficking?
So I give you a quick history. In the year 2000, we got our first human trafficking laws. And basically those laws define human trafficking and how we would approach it. You need 3 elements to have a human trafficking case. And the elements are force, fraud, and coercion. When you go to the Trafficking Protection Act of 2000, you will see other words like transportation, harboring, which you will see in some of Diddy's allegations. But really, you need to have one of those elements, force, fraud, or coercion. But the key to those elements is to note that they only apply to adults. So since the year 2000, there was no such thing as child prostitution. But it took, the state of Florida, where I live, 16 years to finally pass a law, no more arresting children for prostitution. It took the state of Georgia 19 years to finally pass a law, no more arresting children for prostitution. And there's still states out there that are arresting kids for prostitution when they are literally a victim of this crime.
Wow, man. You know what? I mean, to really kind of hear this is so interesting to me. Now, in reference to Diddy has got a litany of charges, man. kind of unpack what he's dealing with, because Melanie explained to me that I was looking at it wrong, because I thought that any man that's ever flew a woman out anywhere could be a part of some of these crimes. What's your thoughts?
So basically, no. You can still invite a young lady to fly her to wherever you are and engage in what kind of fun, as long as it's legal. But what made, some of this stuff illegal for him is he had known sex workers brought across state lines to participate in sex acts. That is called that's a law called the Mann Act. You cannot do that. And if you Google it, it's a little bit of a history with the Mann Act. So those were some of the charges that he was brought up against. What really made his situation crazy, and if you go back, let's start off with the search warrant, the place in Miami, the place in LA. A lot of people were tripping because the force that they used and everything. And I did 14 years with the Special Response Team. That is Homeland Security's SWAT team. That's what we call it, a Special Response Team. So the reason they use such force is for three reasons. Number one, you usually have somebody that you know is dangerous in the house. You have weapons in the house, or just the fact of the size. They did search warrants on 2 mansions. So that alone, called for a special response team to do the search warrant. And what did we find out later in the search warrant? He did have guns. And so one thing that people got to understand about this case, Homeland Security has a lot of information before they go forward with any type of indictment, search warrants. And they're only going to give us
90-some% conviction rate, so they don't really play with you unless they coming to get you.
Oh, exactly. And note this, they're not going to give you their full case and those charges. They're going to give you the minimum that they need to give to a judge to sign a search warrant, or the minimum they need for a grand jury to find a true bill, which is an indictment. So there's a lot more to come that you're not seeing in those indictments.
Wow. All right, Victor. We're dealing with trafficking, human trafficking. We're dealing with what else is he dealing with? Because, like you say, with data, they haven't given us everything. So what else? What else can we look down the pipe and go, wow, this is going to be really tough for this young man?
Yeah, well, you got racketeering, which basically you have an organization doing illegal acts and doing illegal acts with different people. So he's the head of his organization, and they were doing illegal acts.
So let me ask you this: when I hear racketeering, I think Jimmy Hoffa, I think mafia. Yeah. This is not that, but it is.
Oh yeah, it totally is. When you look at that indictment and how he intimidated employees, how he intimidated people and used his employees to help commit further his crimes, that is racketeering all over it.
Wow. Go ahead, Musa.
I said when it comes to racketeering, I always hear like, if your organization doesn't have a name, does that protect you from the racketeering? Because it's like, if it's just a group of people, but since the fact that it is a bad boy and that's their label, is that why it's racketeering? If he was just a sole person acting with a bunch of friends under no moniker, would that make a difference?
Well, he does have a name, right? He does have an organization. He has different organizations, but you don't necessarily need a name to be charged with racketeering. You don't have to have an organization to have it. It's just that you have you're committing a crime and you're using other people to help you commit that crime, right?
Yeah.
And so you got
that was always a like I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Like in the streets, that was always a misconception that they would say you would never say you were in a gang or y'all was in a group, because when you do that, you open yourself up to a RICO. So just to hear that from you, I didn't know. You know what I mean? That's just debunking that fact. Because most people in the street always feel like, yo, we not a gang, we not a gang, we not a gang, we not a group. Because when you always say you open yourself up to be in a group, now they can get you with the RICO. That's how I thought it worked. So it's good to know that.
When you look at any type of situation of a crime, there's a leader. Who's giving the orders? How many people you got supporting what you're doing, right? So that, you can, as long as it's something illegal that you're doing and you're using other people to help you to commit that crime, then you could be charged with racketeering. And I know my friend.
So Victor, can you talk about?
I was going to say, I do know what my friend Melanie does. She's a lawyer on the side, so she can even go into details on that stuff. Ex-prosecutor.
All right, Melanie, give it to him. What was you going to ask Mr. Victor?
How, because a lot of people have this problem with the RICO statute when there's only one person being indicted. So can you talk about how somebody can be indicted and convicted for RICO, not unlike R. Kelly, who was as the only person, even though they're being charged under the RICO statute. So can you talk about how he can be indicted without any other co-conspirators being named yet?
Well, I probably would say some other people are going to have some problems with this case, but a lot of times, you know, when you have like your little people, like you got your drug dealers on the street, but you really want to get to the drug smuggler, right? So, you know, I think we're going to find a lot of people cooperating because, you know, my experience as an agent, whenever I did investigations, whoever we came across and found enough information to bring them into a crime, we used to say something like this: there's one seat on a bus. Are you going to jump on the bus and cooperate? Or not, then you're going to end up going down with the case. So I guarantee you, other than, you know, that Cassie case, which really sparked this investigation, I guarantee you there is a lot of other things that were happening way before, but her case really was the case that made Homeland Security go further with these charges.
Hey man, talk to me about Homeland Security, because I mean we're familiar with other law enforcement areas, but Homeland Security, what is y'all's purview?
All right, so you got to understand, Homeland Security came about after 9/11. I joined the U.S. Customs Service back in 19, I almost said 18, but back in 1991. It was, I know, it was the U.S. Customs Service. It was the U.S. Customs Service. But after 9/11, you created the Department of Homeland Security, which merged a lot of agencies together. U.S. Customs was an agency that covers all goods coming and going out of the country. U.S. Immigration covered all people going and coming out of the country. Now that you have a merger under Homeland Security, now we control goods, people, everything that's going in and out of this country. Homeland Security is the primary agency that investigate or look over those things.
Wow.
Awesome. I got a question. Like when you were talking about like a lot of people were I guess going to be flipped in this investigation. Like how do y'all lead with like immunity? Is that the first thing y'all put on the table? Say if you want to go to jail or you want to go home, is that how y'all do it? Or is this like, yo,
no, it all depends on how much of part of the crime you pay. You could get less time, you know, by participating, or you could get no time by participating. So it all depends on your part in that crime and who is it that we really want to get and how does it affect the economy and the people, you know.
So the longer I hold out, do I got a better chance of getting less time? If y'all be like, yo,
remember, there's only one bus on that seat. So
one seat on the bus.
There's only one seat on that bus. I mean, you know, so the first person that can jump in that seat and give us the information.
That's scary, man. Like so y'all holding out to see who snitched first. Like the first dude.
Yeah, you better get right or get left.
That's tough, boy. I don't even want to. You gotta snitch for feed me.
That's why.
Well, the one thing I'll say.
That's why gun out now.
I'll say there's one thing about this case is that I'm sure that they were receiving information way before Cassie. And then again, there's a lot of different things that were happening, but because maybe they didn't have enough evidence. And I have to say the sad thing is that when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of influence. So yes. It's sad. I know as an agent, and I don't think Homeland Security or any federal agency operates in this way. But as an agent, I don't get to decide the cases so far. You know, I come up with the information, the evidence, then I take it to a U.S. attorney's office or a state attorney's office. It is those offices at that level that decide if do we prosecute or not.
So at this point,
Victor, I mean, we're talking about the federal government, man. Y'all do not be bullshitting. Y'all do not play. And when they decide when whether it's Cassie or whatever made them decide to go out to Diddy, man, Diddy was insulated for a number of reasons. One, he's committing these sex acts that we're starting to become aware of. That's not part of the statute that I'm seeing? Is it rape in there somewhere?
Well, no, sex trafficking is part of the case. That means you got sex trafficking and labor trafficking, right? So a lot of times when we look at human trafficking, everybody focuses on the sex trafficking. But what we need to know is that labor trafficking is 60 and 70% of all trafficking, which involves us all. If you own a cell phone and you can buy clothes and you can buy food, we, including myself, have a minimum of 40 to 60 slaves working for us. When we look at the cobalt that goes into making our cell phone work, that's dug out of the Congo, and you got families, children, women, families digging this mineral up with hands and only getting paid $1 a week, so we can have a cell phone. It's pretty bad, but this is why Quest for Freedom does what it does, is to really educate people, empower them with information about this, which I think is the #1 crime in the world, so that we can make better decisions when we're faced with, we can make better decisions with the information that we have.
Hey, it's the podcast Comedy and Crime. We're talking to Victor Williams. Victor, first of all, I can't thank you enough for coming on and really unpacking this whole Diddy thing, man. It's so much nuance to this case. Even like with the R. Kelly case, what about the other people? Like, there are people that aren't Diddy that could be implicated, but I guess they're not big enough fish. Is that what it is?
No, this case is far from over. You got to understand, when they did their search warrant, and again, Homeland or any federal agency is not going to give you everything that they have. Now, when this case gets closer to going to trial, as a law enforcement, there is a thing called discovery, where we have to give the defense every evidence of the case to the defense. But as far as the public, that's the one thing that I'm really going to be watching, like, who are the names, who are the other people that are going to be charged in this case? Because those videos that they pulled out, the freak-offs, when they did that search warrant, they were looking particularly for electronics because, other people have told them he videotaped everything. I've been hearing information that he had cameras in every room. So, some of those
now you get into pornography laws and other things. Am I right?
Well, I don't know about that, but you're definitely getting into a space of where, did I see you doing something and I can use that? Hey, look, man, if you don't do this, I'm going to show people that, this is something that this is something that, I like to talk to families about and their children, because especially for young men, say a 15, 14-year-old boy, he's online, he get a text by this very attractive woman, and they get to chat and he's all flattered. And then she sends him a picture and convince him to send her a picture. And later on, he finds out it's not a beautiful young lady at all. It's some dude or another. It could be a lady, but now they're either extorting them or forcing them to do things that they don't want to do. So, this goes beyond Diddy. And I really thank you guys for allowing me on the show, because I hope what you talk about today, or what we talk about today, is really going to educate families that we really need to watch over our kids when it comes to social media and things like that.
Melanie, you have anything for Victor?
Let me ask you, Victor. Yes. So why did they put the 1,000 bottles of baby oil, 1,000 bottles of lube, 784 dildos in the indictment? What was the point of that? And who was the poor guy who had to inventory all that stuff?
Well, I tell you, when we do search warrant, it is really bad. When you started doing evidence, the paperwork sucks. But, what made that so important? It is tools of the trade. When we would do search warrants, especially on brothels or in a human trafficking situation, we're looking for further evidence, tools of the trade, lubricants. I'm surprised they didn't find a bag full of condoms. That wasn't reported. I mean, were all these people just having sex without condoms?
I have a joke about that. I have a joke about that. Yeah. You got 1,000 bottles of baby oil, 1,000 bottles of lube, but not 1,000 condoms. I said, look, I hope they're putting penicillin in those IVs because you leaving this freak off with something.
But yeah, I mean,
what they doing, you can't get pregnant.
Oh God.
Can't get pregnant. But
well, but that's why that's so important. When we did investigations and search warrants here, especially on brothels that we felt like were human trafficking trap houses, I talk about this stuff because it's part of our culture. It's part of the language that we use. What made people hang out at these parties, understanding that certain women were drinking and being drugged, that it was okay to have sex with them when they weren't in their full mentality. This is some cultural stuff. So when we would do search warrants on brothels and things like that, the women that are caught up in that would either be given a stack of cards. So each card that she would have sex with a person, she put that card to the side so she can let her trafficker know how many people she had sex with. So these are just all tools of the trade. I never did a search warrant with 1,000 bottles of lube, but I have hit places with 1,000, bags with 1,000 condoms in it. So I was shocked that we didn't see condoms in that.
So Victor, let me ask you this, man. So wait a minute. Okay. Let's say ex-comedian has been at a party before, right?
Remember, whatever you say can't be used against you.
Hold on. I'm just saying.
I'm not a part of his organization before he finishes.
Is there what's the statute of limitation? Like how far back can they go?
Yeah.
Well, that was the great thing in this law with human trafficking. There is no statute of limitations. If you've been a trafficking victim and you can pull evidence from 10, 20 years ago, and that evidence is still good, you could be prosecuted for trafficking.
Wow. I got a question too, because now Diddy's team is saying that I guess Homeland Security or whoever leaked the tape between him and Cassie. Like, is that a thing? Do they do that to get the ball rolling? Or that was just something that they just came out trying to just grabbing at straws at this point?
No, I don't. I've never been in a case where we intentionally leaked evidence to make a point, because our case is really not about public opinion. My job was to serve and protect. If I had evidence of a crime, I'm about that crime. I'm not about who it is, what they do, and worried about public opinion. My job was to make sure that I was crossing my T's and dotting my I's. Absolutely. Because charging you of a crime, and the reason why the U.S. Attorney's Office is so successful. I mean, it was frustrating sometimes working with them, because if you didn't bring that case pretty much already wrapped, you got to go back to work. You got to do this. That's why their cases are so successful, because they're not just taking, it's not like local PD where they can arrest you and figure out the evidence later. When you're dealing with the federal case, most of the times when I'm knocking on the door, I already know half the answers. I just want to see if you're going to lie to me,
Wow, man. Talk to me about this, Victor. What's your sign, man? Because what part of you makes you want to get to the bottom of stuff like this, bro?
Well, I mean, listen, the work I do in human trafficking involves a lot of trauma. When people ask me, where does human trafficking victims come from? Well, human trafficking victims and traffickers are created in homes all around the world. When I talk to parents about dealing with their kids, I'm like, parents, you must deal with your traumas. A lot of these things that are happening to our kids and where we end up, we blame them, but it's really not their fault. So when I started working the last 8 years of my career, I worked human trafficking. And when I started learning about these things, it actually changed me as a human being. I hope, although this is a comedy show, I hope you guys can hear my passion in this, because I teach and work in this space from my learned experiences, not as a victim of human trafficking, but someone who's worked with victims, who work with survivors, and understand that I even, from my past, have been a part of a culture that I didn't even know about. So I hope to educate men that they understand. If most men understand what I know about human trafficking and acted on it, because it's not enough to know. We got to act. We can really turn this thing around in a second. But it's about us. It's about individuals.
Hey, the name of the podcast, Comedy and Crime, that is Melanie Mary. That is Artsy Musa, and that young man, Homeland Security guru. I appreciate you for coming on, Mr. Victor.
Make sure you put retired, because I don't want to get,
Yeah, don't get no trouble. Not with us. And a lot of people are speaking on this. There's tons of comedians doing jokes. Melanie has a joke. I'm sure Musa has a joke. I think I even did a joke about this, but this is not a laughing matter. And Ray J just spoke on it. Let's see what Ray J has.
People are getting robbed of not only their money and their spirituality, they're getting robbed of their womanhood and manhood. Asses are being taken in ways that nobody can explain. Do you chuckle?
Yeah, I'm chuckling. I'm sorry. That was funny to me.
Hey,
he is so serious to me. Asses are getting taken in inexplicable ways.
Hey, but he brings a point. You're not just. I mean, this is funny to us. The baby oil and the lube. That stuff is hilarious. But the reality is, somebody was on the other end of the penis, and it's not good.
And I love that, because when I do my human trafficking presentations, and to let people know I'm speaking at their level. I may have a little bit more knowledge from my experiences, but I want to let them know that I'm speaking from that core. So whenever I'm having a human trafficking presentation, I normally ask my audience, whoever dressed up for Halloween, they all raise their hands. Who's ever dressed up as a pimp or prostitute or attended a pimps and hoe party? Few people raise their hands. The next slide is a picture of me in a pimp outfit. And when I started working human traffic, I didn't realize how much we glorify this.
Yes.
What's the movie that Tay Diggs played, Best Man? And you remember the fight he had? They were at his bachelor party. And
right.
He even walked in with with the pimp. And the pimp was there, right? Tom Hanks did a movie back in the day called Bachelor Party, where the pimp walked in. I want my bees back. Where are my bees? So when a young man is looking at this, we're almost giving them permission to carry on this type of actions. When I've yet to hear, and I'm not saying it hadn't happened yet because of the music we let our children listen to. I've yet someone come to me and say, my mom is stripping, my sister's stripping. Let's go to the strip club and support. So it's easy to do these things when you distant yourself and you don't know or have an attachment to the people that are participating in that space. That's all
such
culture.
A great point. Such a great point, Victor. Man, and you know what? Like, even looking at R. Kelly's situation, right? I'm from Chicago, and like you say, we glorify the idea of the pimp. We glorify whether that's Snoop Dogg or what Cat Williams. We glorify the idea of the pimp, and a lot of these people are a party to it. I mean, on some level, R. Kelly is a victim, of the pimp culture. And so I think that's a great point, sir.
No, and you brought up a good point, because I just did a presentation and attended St. Thomas University here in Miami. They're the only college that I know of that have the Human Trafficking Academy. And I partnered with someone who is now a doctor of psychology, who was once a human trafficking victim at the age of 11, but she persevered through all that and got her psychology degree, and now is an advocate in this space. And the one thing that she pointed out in her videos, if you go back to these people like R. Kelly, Jeffrey Dahmer, and you look at their past, you can see how they became the animals that they are. So, and most of our world ills, this thing starts at home. And although this country has become a country now that we're starting to recognize mental illness as a real thing, we got a long ways to go, because trauma, we all have experienced trauma. Unresolved trauma creates the vulnerability that makes people become victims of human trafficking or traffickers.
Victor, we're seeing prosecutions of
R. Kelly was molested as a child. R. Kelly was
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Victor, we're looking at prosecutions of people like Diddy, people like R. Kelly, right? But are we gonna see prosecutions of people like that serve their children up to them? You know, as a father, I look at R. Kelly and go, ain't no way R. Kelly would have access to my babies. So
yeah, I mean,
at what point do we protect those kids?
I mean, that's a case that, you know, you really have to go back and look at. And I give you an example. You know, there are people that when you look at sex trafficking, the majority of victims that are sex trafficking are Americans. But when we look at labor trafficking, the majority of people that are people from another country, right? And so when you go to a poor country and you're telling that family, oh, let me have your kid. I can make them a movie star. I can send them to education. I can make them a soccer star. And your lack of education and all, you're thinking like, I want my kid to have a better life than what I'm having. So how did they come to me? How did they convince me? Dominican Republic, there are people going over there convincing these families to give their kids and pay money so they can come and play baseball, right? Yeah. So how are they coming at me? And how far? Now, if I'm giving you my kid, because I'll tell you this, one of the biggest cases when it comes to sex trafficking is familiar trafficking. A lot of families are trafficking their kids. Hands down, they should be prosecuted. But if you're coming at me like I'm poor and you really sell me that you can help my kid, do you really want to prosecute somebody for that their ignorance out of hopes of that? This person maybe believe that they're going to help my kid have a better life, you know. So it's case by case. Yeah.
Wow, that's what a great point, sir. And I never looked at it from that perspective. We're talking to Mr. Victor Williams. Victor, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man, and talking to us. The name of the podcast, Comedy and Crime. And this is no laughing matter. This Diddy thing is very real, very true. And what do you say to the people that say Diddy is being he's just a black man and they've made an example out of him, and why would they do this to this man? He's not a victim, am I right?
No, he's not a victim. I mean, you know, no one that I know of convinced him of, you know, putting, you know, drugs and drinks for these reasons. Look, could he be a victim of something? Like if you go all the way back when he started, when he was with MTV, you know, that band, what was that group, you know, creating the band,
making the band, yeah.
You can go all the way back.
Making a band.
And if you look at some of the things that he had those people doing, like I remember watching an episode where he had them walk over the Brooklyn Bridge or something just to get a slice of pie, you know. So where did he get that? Who was teaching him that type of stuff?
Cheesecake.
To make him feel like it's okay to treat human beings. No one is born this way. So somewhere he got that. It's almost like too, like when we go to colleges and we have these fraternities and you got to do all this crap to become a part of it, right? They treated me like this. I'm going to treat you like that. And what's happening? We're seeing kids injured, dying over stupid rituals that really doesn't make any sense. It doesn't show respect for your fellow person. It doesn't give dignity to people. You know, who are you to treat others like that? You know, so we have to really think about ourselves. Matter of fact, I've evolved in my messaging to human trafficking, asking parents, what are they teaching their kids about love? Because if a true measurement of self-love is the boundaries that I set for myself to educate people who I am and how they should treat me. But we're running around here thinking love is about what we feel. Love is about how we treat people, what we say to people. But mostly it's how I treat myself, because I can't give you what I don't have and I can't receive what I don't know. So our biggest message right now is really trying to empower people to really take care of yourself. Like really you would go out in the world, we're working, we're doing all this for everybody else, but we're really not giving ourselves love and grace. Because if I really give myself love and grace, the moment when people are tripping on me or acting crazy, I could give them grace and go, what's really going on with them? And that's the response, instead of reacting like F you too, which is our culture, right? You say something bad, I get to say something bad back. But why am I giving people that type of power over me? You having a bad day, that's your problem. But if you're making...
So Victor, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So Victor, what do you say to people? Because I've heard this argument. Well, back in the 80s, 90s, if you wanted to have a music career, it was an unknown fact that you had to suck some dick or give up some pussy in order to get a record deal. So Cassie just did what she needed to do to get on, because she wasn't a great singer, beautiful lady, but not talented in the vocal department. And some people say she would never even existed without Diddy. So what do you say to people? I'll give you a prime example. I just did a show with D.L. Hughley last week in Pasadena, and he made a joke. He's like, man, they arrested in the 90s. Like, you can't get away with nothing now. And so what do you say to people that think that was acceptable behavior because it was so widespread and so many other women have similar stories of having to do sexual favors to get on in the entertainment industry, whether it be singing, acting, or whatever? So what do you say to that?
Well, it doesn't make it right. And how many of those people are giving up their kids? Oh yeah, go give this guy a blowjob so you can get a career. Maybe I know they're family trafficking, and maybe families have done that, but it doesn't make it right. And this is about education, right? This is why human trafficking is the #1 crime in the world, because we don't understand it. And it's part of the culture, right? So our job at Quest for Freedom is to really educate people to understand the culture that creates it. And what's within. I give you a prime example of mindset culture. We've all heard prostitution, the world's oldest profession. Yes.
Yes.
You guys heard that before. Well, the oldest profession is actually farming. But when I hear men say that to me, I go, because we're the world's oldest customer, but we live in a culture that we demonize the person that's selling and who could be a potential victim, then demonizing the men who creates the market. But because of the culture, it's okay. It's okay for us to go buy people. I don't work in a world where women are making choices to do what they do. I only work in a world when they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do. And the only way you can tell the difference between the two, and we're not there yet, because I can't read your mind. You guys have heard words when pimps like, I just broke that B last night. That means he just broke her spirit. If I got your mind, I got your body. That's why we don't show pictures of human trafficking people anymore in chains or tied to a bed, because that's an obvious victim. People are walking around us every day and we don't see them because of culture and what we don't know. And that's our job at Quest for Freedom, because that's what changed me. And I don't do this because of, I did this so you can do this, or I know this. I do it because I know that with true information, good information, most of us would make the best decision.
Absolutely. Wow. Hey, y'all, my name is Rodney Perry. That young man is Victor Williams. And the name of the business is Quest to Freedom. Quest to #2 Freedom. Unpack Quest to Freedom before we get out of here, Victor. Talk to me about what y'all goal is, y'all business plan, and how you continue to move forward, how we can help.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. So questforfreedom.org. Quest for Freedom is an anti-human trafficking organization to seek to educate people about the true issues and cultural awareness of human trafficking. We seek to partner with other organizations that provide services that we don't do, but our ultimate goal is to raise enough funds that we can register with the national hotline, which is an organization called PolarisProject.org. And the national hotline number is 888-373-7888. And I give it that way because it's easier. But we want to be able to raise enough funds to register with the national hotline so that we can provide services for victims and their immediate needs. As an agent, sometimes when I came across victims, I didn't have a shelter. I didn't have anywhere for them to go. So what Quest for Freedom wants to do is get you a hotel for a night or whatever you need. If home is safe, we want to be able to get you a bus, plane, train ticket back home. We want to fill those gaps, those immediate gaps, to help victims when they're initially found as a victim, which is so important. We can lose them forever. So questforfreedom.org, $5, $10, whatever people can go to our site and donate. It is helping victims, get their lives back. That's our ultimate goals, is to help victims in this space regain control of their lives and have the lives that they want.
And it's a challenge to help people sometimes too, because I had a young comedian, young lady. She had been raped and molested on the road, and I kind of knew it was happening. If I look back in my mind's eye, in my mind, I should have helped her more, you know. But in my mind, she was grown and she was okay, but she wasn't okay. And I look back on that and I was like, yo, I could have helped this young lady that night.
Yeah, you know, that's been the tough thing in working human trafficking, is that you wonder why. It's called the Stockholm syndrome, right? And the true name is, like, you know, in our lay word, we go, oh, that girl is brainwashed, or that guy's brain. It's called trauma bonding. You know, think about it. You try to take a kid out of a very abusive situation. That kid would cry, right? Because that's all that kid knows. Now you're trying to take this kid to something new that they don't know. Sometimes it's more fear to do something new than to leave your comfort zones. That's why there's no growth in the comfort zone. But we got to understand, like, you still have to give those victims grace. They're not ready yet, but at least you know. And I normally like tell people, hey, just be a good witness. Take information, get license plates, get descriptions, and you ain't got to tell your name. But they're starting to have, you know, human trafficking task forces all over the country, or just call the 800 number or contact us at questofreedom.org, and we'll come up with some type of solution to help you deal with what the information that you're providing.
That is awesome. My name is Rodney Perry. This is Comedy and Crime. That young man is Artsy Musa. Melanie Mary is in the building. And join us today, Victor Williams from questofreedom.org. Check the website out, man. Be a part of it and be a part of the solution. And how about this, Victor? Victor, first of all, thank you for coming on Comedy and Crime. And I know we've been pretty serious today, but now it's time to talk about some dumbass criminals. Victor, it's some people out there committing crimes that really are freaking idiots. Yo, let's check this out.
His draws.
Like an elf. Is that a do-rag?
Yo, Artsy Musa, what did we just watch? What was going on?
I was just, what was in his drawers, man? Like, did he have a bowling ball or something in his drawers?
No, that was his stomach.
Oh, he did. Whatever he was trying to get, I hope he get it, man, because he looked like he needs some help, man.
He tried to break the window. He picked up a rock.
He looked like Santa Claus.
Like that was
hey, Victor, don't you have to assume you're being recorded at all times?
I've never seen anybody cover their face with a do-rag.
Victor, don't you have to assume you're being recorded at all times nowadays?
You have to. You really have to. And I look at that as a very mentally challenged person, you know.
Let him out, man. Let him out.
Speaking of mentally challenged, check out our second dumb criminal for the day.
Well, he was at the...
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I would say he was trying to break into the sex store and get the rest of the 784 dildos.
Stupid. Oh, it's the same thing.
That's what he was doing. Oh my God.
Ran it back.
It's even funnier.
Why he show his face and didn't put the mask on? Like that's
right.
Yeah, and then he fell over the damn.
Even real.
I don't think he wanted to. I think he just don't like the owner of that store. Like he wanted the owner to see his face.
Oh.
In front of the police station, though.
Why are you outside the police station stealing?
In front of the police station.
And it's probably that guy's bike. He's like, man, that's my damn bike. What you're not about to do is take my bike, dog.
Right. Right.
I wouldn't have gave up so easily.
Maybe he's illiterate. Maybe he's not from here.
He would have to catch me.
Okay, well, so how far you gonna get though, Musa?
First of all, cops wear flats. Cops be having flats on. Like I got them sneakers. I might have, if I could have got them with some type of, old school Deion Sanders juke, I might have got away. I might have got away.
Hey, Victor, let me ask you this. They say, well, if you make police chase you, they gonna really whoop your ass. So, have you ever had to chase somebody and really whoop their ass real bad?
Nah, we don't operate in that fashion at the federal level. You know, we're pretty professional. And look, I'm not going to judge. I will say this: I do a behavior management course, and you know, when we try to do this course with law enforcement, it's really giving them an understanding of when I'm reacting to ignorance, then all I'm doing is making the situation worse. If I'm responding, because you know what kept me safe as an agent? My tactics. But when I'm responding to ignorance because of words, I just lost my tactics, you know?
Wow.
And this is one thing we try to educate law enforcement about. Like, we really need to have more control over ourselves, right? We give you a badge and a gun. It's human, but you get that badge and a gun because you told us that we can trust that you have a better control over your emotions. But what we're seeing a lot of guys is that they don't have control of their emotions, and it's getting them in trouble and getting people hurt. We need to be better than that.
I love that. And that's a great place to leave off on the day. Victor Williams joined us from quest2freedom.org. That's quest2freedom.org. Thank you, Victor. Thank you really for unpacking the Diddy thing, man. I think you really shed a whole lot of light, and especially light on human trafficking. Well done, sir. Thank you. That man is Artsy Musa. That young lady is the Melanie Mary. Melanie, how can we be friends with you? How do we find you?
Well, I'm on all social platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram is where I mainly reside. At the Melanie Mary, TheMelaniMary, the Melanie Mary.
And Artsy Musa, how do we stay in touch, bro? How do we stay in touch with you?
It's Artsy Musa on everything, man. My dog going crazy right now. Artsy Musa on everything. Love that. Happy to meet you, Victor. You're amazing.
And of course, Victor, we know about Quest to Freedom, but how do we find you on social, man? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, you can find us on Quest to Freedom on social media. And, you know, you can definitely go to quest2freedom.org and scroll to the bottom page where you see the donate button. And we have all our social media accounts there. So please look us up and let us help educate you in this space to make our community safer.
Is that's that little bit ass dog making all that noise? That dog sound big as hell. Hey, y'all, that's our show for today. My name is Rodney Perry. This is Comedy and Crime. Thank you once again, Victor, man. I can't thank you enough. Well done, Melanie. Well done, Musa. Till next time.
You gonna see a lot of people doing dumb shit and they said that this gonna happen on the regular. Real people, real crime, true stories. They get fatal, promise ain't nothing that's scarier. Talk about the stories, but you know we different, man. You know we had to add a little twist. Comedy and crime, speaking of man, we different design.